Hi, welcome to Just Paint It. I'm Christina Watts, a Prince George multimedia artist, and today we're going to paint this, a sunset sail. The first thing I like to do when I start my canvases is to give them a little bit of a mist because it gives them a little bit of saturation so that my colors will blend nicely on the canvas. So I'll take a little bit of my squirt gun here and just set finely on mist. You don't want to drench your canvas down because then you lose the binders in your paint, and later on in life your paint will start falling off your canvas. And that looks about ready to go. Now I like to paint with palette knives mostly, but usually what I'll do to start off a canvas is to paint with my brush a background scene to just sort of set the stage for the next part, which is the palette knives. So I like to use these bigger thick brushes that are a little bit springy because they've got a bit of bounce to them. It's a good idea to invest in a good brush because if you get a cheap brush, what happens is the hairs will fall out on your canvas and you'll be stuck picking out the hairs and wrecking your painting along the way. So to save yourself that frustration, get yourself something decent. Now because I'm going to start with the sunset sail, I'm going to go into my whites and just start plastering them on the canvas. I don't really worry about where my paint is going at this point. I just want to get some color down, because in the next few steps, the palette knives are going to sort of bring that color out. Now I already know from doing this painting a few more times that I want the light to be in the center, so I'm really avoiding the darks in the center for the time being. We're going to keep that to the yellows and keep it to the reds and the whites. Now, it's always a good idea to provide some color variation in your piece, and when you're doing this, don't put a lot of the same color everywhere. So the more sporadic and organic the color is on your piece, the better the final product will be. It'll look more realistic rather than this shape is the same as this shape, is the same as this shape, as this shape. It might start off like that in the beginning, but as you transform it, think about that. Think about irregular shapes, because in nature we always find that shapes are very irregular. And I've taken my brush off and I've double loaded it with a bit of yellow on one side and a bit of white on the other side. Give you a quick look. Now this is a common technique that artists use, is double loading their brushes or double loading their knives, and it helps with the color variations in your pieces. And then as you're moving around your canvas, you've got the double layer down. Now it will blend out eventually, but again, we're just trying to get the paint on the canvas. Now you'll notice too that I'm using a little bit of cross hatching with my brush as I go out. This is just a blending technique. And now I'm adding a few more darks in here with my ultramarine blue. This is a really nice acrylic color to have, probably a staple. You'll find in this piece I'm going to be using one red, one yellow, and two blues, a light and a dark blue. And now we're going to flip it upside down. Now the reason why I like to flip my canvas upside down when I'm doing the bottom of the ocean is that I find in my own brush strokes that I tend to be very straight and very unlinear, or not linear. So what I'm going to do is I want to just give a big swoop through or a big drape over. Now you'll notice too that when I'm doing this, I'm not going directly in the middle of my canvas, and there's a good reason for that. It's because it's been proven and many times that a design element is to be on the rule of thirds. So you'll see that I'll start working in thirds. So this will be the third row of my canvas, and I'll want the horizon line to be right about there. Now I'm going to use a lot more paint for the bottom half because it is the foreground. It's the front of the painting. So I think that's about right for my ocean on the bottom as a base point. And when you get to this point in your painting, it looks interesting, but you're going to think in your head, oh, this isn't going to work out. But each painting gets to an awkward phase, and once you keep pushing past that, you'll get to a finished product that you'll be proud of. I find that my best paintings were the ones that I didn't give up on. What I do is I like to just load my palette knife with a few colors, and there's even a little bit of blue in that, and that's okay, it'll give the sky some variation. And then I go back into my piece and I just start tapping where I want my lights. And you're probably hearing a lot of tap, 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 and that's good because that's exactly what you want to do. This will also give your piece a lot of texture. What you want to do is you want to keep picking up different colored paint. So I'll start with the lighter stuff in the center. And then I will move out. Now, I like to keep the darks around the edges because we're sort of in this piece going to silhouette the sailboat and the sunset. So I want the corners to be darker. I'm always thinking about that. I'm always thinking about don't make this shape the same as that shape. And we'll carry on, we'll keep on doing this. I'm going to add some blue in this next shot. This is a nice cerulean blue. And we're going to get some purples. In this case, it's going to be nice dark purple over top, which is great for my corner. Okay, we've tapped enough into the sky, and I probably will go in and sort of move it around later, but at this point I want to just let it dry and move on to the ocean. Now, a lot of people find that the ocean is one of the hardest things, but I find that it is one of the easiest things if you're using a palette knife. Now, because you had the two different colors on your knife, it naturally gives it the swoops of the ocean. Now, you'll also notice too that I'm not going up and down, I'm going with how I would like the waves. Now I need to add a little bit of white, so on the very edge of my knife, I'm going to swipe through and add a little bit of white just on my, and I tap it off if I have too much, just on the tip of the blade. So now using our hand, we can just kind of come in and ever so slightly run a nice clean finger over those white lines to give the impression of more waves. And that's pretty much it. That is how you would get a nice, easy water scene. So I'm going to run in for my sailboat. Again, I'm thinking about a rule of thirds. So if I'm looking at rule of thirds, I want it about here and angle it in. I don't want to angle my sail too much so it looks like the boat's capsizing. So I take a deep breath in and out because this is a detrimental line in their painting. There's one sail, and there is the other. The nice thing about palette knives is you get a nice straight line. And now what I will do is I will work from the line out for the rest of the sail. Okay, so that's probably good for my sail. And I'm going to go into my red. I'm choosing red because I have red in the sky, and so I want red somewhere else in the painting because your eye always wants to look for the same color somewhere else. So the bottom of the sailboat is pretty much a rectangle, if you want to think of it that way. And so all I want to do is drop that in. I'm going to move my canvas over just a bit and drop a little rectangle into my piece. And move it up. And then I'll just sort of fix it from here. So if it had a nose going up into the sunset, I would take my palette knife and run a little bit of a line up there, just to give the impression of a nose heading out to the sea. And then the next thing to finish off the piece so that your sailboat doesn't look like it's floating on top of the ocean, you want to give it a bit of a trail. So with your same palette knife, grab a little bit of the white and draw it kind of coming out of the bottom of the boat so that it's drifting off. And again on the sides too. And every time your knife gets dirty, wipe it off and get some fresh paint. Otherwise you're going to mix colors when you don't necessarily want to. And we're almost done our quick little sunset sail, so now it's time to sign it and call it done. Have an artful day.